Hi everyone, welcome to this new episode of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast, episode number 38, May 1st through May 7th. Today we're going to go over some pieces of news that occurred this week. It was a little bit slower on the news end, especially with the healthcare issues and Korean issues and all the other issues that have emerged with the administration recently. So we're going to go over some stuff and then just go into practice management and life as an attorney and things we have to deal with, how to better the practice. Without further ado, let's get it started. Welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I am the host, Attorney John Khosravi, and I practice U.S. immigration law exclusively. For more information about the program, please visit www.immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. Please note that this recording is informational only and does not constitute legal advice. Please consult with a licensed attorney for specific legal guidance that suits your case. Also, this recording is copyrighted and written permission is required for rebroadcasting. For more information about me, please visit www.jqqlaw.com. The biggest news that just jumped up everywhere on all social media and the news, especially because it's so controversial with regards to the president and the immigration program, is the news that Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and his family have been pushing the EB-5 program in China. And it's been all over the place that his sister was there promoting it, and there's been talk about conflicts of interest and this and that. So, unfortunately now, the EB-5 program has it going against it on both ends. Not only is it, some of the Republican senators and Congress people saying that they don't like the EB-5 program, it has all these problems, fraud, this and that. Now it's going to be a football with the Democrats also saying, Kushner families take advantage of it, Trump's taking advantage of it. So this was a big bad turn for the EB-5 program, Immigrant Investor Program. It's going to affect the program definitely. They just did a short-term extension, but now that both the Democrats and Republicans are going to go against it, it looks like it has a bleak future. Now, not only has federal policy and immigration been a big issue recently, states are also taking a step forward with it. Texas, in particular, passed a new law that said ICE detainers, when someone's arrested, ICE puts out a request for a hold so that law enforcement could hold on to them until ICE could come there and pick them up. Well, before, a lot of senators would say that, or not senators, sheriffs would say that it's against the law for us to detain these people for an extended period of time, so they're not going to do that. But Texas has now said you have to hold it for federal law enforcement, federal ICE agents to come and pick up the detained unlawful immigrant. So you might see an exodus of people here unlawfully from Texas into other states. That happened in Arizona. That could happen now in Texas because just getting pulled over could be a problem now, being put into deportation. Anecdotally, there's a lot of things that I hear that are bad. One of our colleagues just had a relative actually denied entry into the U.S. A green card holder, Canadian citizen green card holder entering the U.S. forced to sign I-407 under threat of going to jail or something like that, or in the NTA and all that. So she gave up after a couple hours of hunger and stress and worry, all that kind of stuff. Eventually gave in and returned the green card. So it's something to be mindful of. Now, if that does happen to you, what you have to do is as soon as possible contact the higher ups, the watch commander at the port, the CBP port, that they came in and talked to them, discuss the situation. If it's going to be fixed, it has to happen very quickly. The Canadian border and the CBP authorities there had another big issue that's been going around a lot in global news, especially Canadian and Australian newspapers. The case is kind of weird, and I've been following it up, trying to get some good information about it to fully understand what happened, because the scenario obviously doesn't seem fair, especially for laymen that aren't in the immigration field. But there's holes in the story that don't come clear with what CBP usually does in these kind of situations. Unfortunately, the newspapers covering it have done absolutely no fact-checking on the situation. Eventually, a New York Times report came out that actually interviewed an immigration lawyer, and the lawyer explained that the situation or the story had holes in it that didn't fully make sense. So essentially, it seems, and this is based on really the girlfriend of the person that was in trouble, said that she had her boyfriend here from Australia with a 5-year visa that required him to leave the U.S. every 6 months and come in. As immigration attorneys listening to this, you obviously know that there's no such thing as a visa like that. It's a tourist visa that people use or abuse if you will, by leaving and then coming back and staying in the U.S. And that's something CBP, if it sees people are doing frequently, will stop them and prevent that from happening. So this person waited till like the last hour to leave the U.S. on the 6-month mark, trying to go to Canada and then hopping back over and coming back in the U.S. The Canadian authorities took a while before letting the person exit the U.S. and enter Canada. Because of that, the 6-month time period hit and it went to the next day. So the person was out of status for about an hour and a half. Eventually, it seems like they're allowed into Canada, and the person has tried to turn around and come to the U.S. But at that point, it looks like CP detained them and has now put them in federal detainment pending a hearing before an immigration judge and not allowing bond or anything. So they're being held for a couple weeks. Now, they say that the family says that CBP told him that the guy could either go back to his home country or he could marry his girlfriend to stay here. And, reading that, CBP would never say that, in my opinion. Now, the ports do things a little differently, the land borders, that is, as opposed to airports. And I deal with the airports mostly. So, first of all, just marrying a U.S. citizen is not going to get you a green card. You have to apply. And if you're at the border saying you're going to come in and apply to get married, that's straight up immigrant intent. They're not going to let you come in to do that. So that's an issue right there. So it doesn't make sense that I would have said that to the person. Usually in this kind of case, they'll just either do voluntary withdrawal or they would force them out of the country. The fact that they're detaining him seems like there's more to it. They also threaten the person with criminal and felony violations, and civil immigration law is usually civil, so that then becomes confusing as why they accuse them of a felony. So there's much more going on to this story. Now, the family set up a GoFundMe page to get money to hire a lawyer to deal with it, and I was looking over the page, and this is pretty much a story they said, which is very confusing if you're a fellow practitioner. Well, there are comments where people actually mention the stuff I said, and other people are like, oh, you're so mean, you're so rude, like, you have a heart, this person's going through tough times. And I don't want people trolling me. I do feel sorry because being in federal detainment, especially immigration detainment, is not a pleasurable experience. It's very harsh and very devastating. It's prison. So anytime your rights are taken away, especially over something that's a status violation, it's a very harsh punishment. But seems to be a lot more going on with the story. I'm going to follow it up. I've been asking around to see other people's opinions, and most immigration I talk to have been baffled in the same way. But all this stuff is stressing people out. They hear the news, they're potentially hit by it, and I'm getting the calls of people that are stressed out on the phone. I'm sure you are as well. And it becomes a problem because when people call me and they're stressed out on the phone, they want an answer, they want a solution, they expect me to just give it to them in 2 words or 2 seconds like it's magic. And when I can't do that, that's when they get disgruntled. And I tell them, listen, we got to have a full consultation. We got to think about this. And I don't handle removal defense myself, so it's not something I could help. And it's funny because last week at the end of the podcast, I mentioned something about people calling and how to handle it and the review systems that people leave online and stuff. The next morning, I got a call from a gentleman who kept asking me about stuff I don't do, and I kept telling him, listen, I don't do this, but I'll give you the information for people to do. And then he went back over it, and I said, listen, I can't help you with this. Email me, I'll send you a couple words, I will. And then he went back into it. Eventually I said, hey, brother, I just can't help you. Gotta go, bye. And that set him off and left me a bad review on one of these sites. I immediately responded just explaining exactly as I did. I'm like, this is kind of a joke. Like, why are you mad at me? I'm trying to help you. You're just not listening. Like, what do you want me to do? So that kind of stuff happens. And that got me thinking maybe I should talk about the whole review issues that happen. A lot of people are scared to use Yelp or Avvo because they might give it credence and give more attention to potentially a spot where bad reviews could be placed on somebody. But I don't really follow that thinking. I think the review system is, in one sense, good. There has to be some sort of balance out because there are so many bad lawyers that badly represent people. The Bar Association is not doing anything. I'm getting calls all the time from people that have been used and abused by immigration attorneys, and the bar isn't doing anything. So if a review system could help out online, that might be worth it. Now, you might get 1 or 2 reviews, even if you're the best, bad reviews, even if you're the best attorney. So that doesn't worry me. Now, if you got 10 or 20, that becomes a problem. But I wouldn't be too worried if someone leaves 1 or 2 bad reviews. That wouldn't stop me, and it hasn't stopped me from actually putting time into these sites to get reviews. Because if you're a good attorney doing your job well, your clients should be happy enough to leave you enough good reviews to balance it out. 1 to 10, or 10 good reviews for 1 every bad, or or a similar ratio to that. But one good thing, and actually all my bad reviews are I actually taking joy out of them, because it gives you opportunity to develop a new method to explain and sell yourself, your services, and how good they are in your responses. So all the bad reviews I have, this last one was just a joke, I couldn't take it seriously, but the other two were kind of just people that are off, let's put it that way. And so I wrote a really long response. I was respectful, but I broke things down, how my office works and how dedicated I am to my work, so I can't just answer people flippantly and just give a yes or no answer. I need to give dedication and time to my clients, all this kind of stuff. So I turned their negativity into super positive, and so I'm kind of hoping they don't remove those reviews that they left the bad reviews, because my response is so good, it actually benefits me. And that's the way you got to look at it. Turn that negative into a positive, and don't look at it any other way. And don't be afraid of it. The legal field is changing. Every day it's changing, and marketing and being out there is changing as well. It's leveled the playing field where I'm competing successfully against firms that have been around for decades and have big names within themselves, but the internet allows me to be on a level playing field with them. And so if you don't catch up with it, if you don't do it and you don't play that game, you're just going to be left out. You have no control over it. So either you play the game or you get left out. And that's the decision I did, and just to do things on my own terms instead of letting other people do it and beat me at that game. One question that comes along with that game is these videos I'm doing. Now, the videos themselves, I wouldn't say are the primary thing you should do if you're trying to get involved with online marketing and just digital marketing and getting involved in this new technology, because it's very time consuming, expensive, and it's not a sure way that things will happen. I get pleasure out of it because I like talking about immigration, and that's why the podcasts and videos are all about, because I just want to develop a community. Most of the time I do spend podcasts that's intended for other immigration lawyers, so it's not even general marketing to the public. But the stuff I do to the public is just to get the word out on information and just people to know me. The cases I have been, it's possible to get cases, and it's in those bulk areas of asylum removal defense, which I don't do. So it does get me cases on those ends, but cases I refer out. So that doesn't help out. But if you're doing those practice areas, I would definitely do video, because it does help out. But one thing that happened this week is I got a new client, and the client, when he came to me, was very happy to see me and kind of starstruck. And one thing is, once people see you on YouTube or something, when they see you in person, it has an effect of looking like you are kind of a celebrity to the South thing. And the client was really nice and really respectful, and he had researched people, and that differentiated me from other people is the podcast. And he actually sat and listened to it, which gave me worry, actually, because the podcast is intended for other immigration attorneys. So I intentionally make it boring, just talking about practice management, really technical stuff that no one would want to listen to. So I didn't ever give it a second thought that a client would listen to it and what opinion they would have. But when he told me that he listened to one of my podcasts, I was kind of scared. I was like, oh no, what am I saying in my podcast? Got to be careful. Obviously, I'm not saying anything bad, putting it public like this. But that's what it does. So it differentiates you from other people, and when they're trying to choose between maybe 2 or 3 people that they liked, having that presence either on video or Instagram page that shows your real personality, podcast or whatever it is, could be the difference between getting that client. But at the same time, if not done right, it could be the reason they don't choose you. Along with technology comes practice management aspects, and I've been talking a lot the last couple of weeks about software, particularly INS Zoom that I purchased. I just went through a couple of tutorials, and they're actually making the software more reasonable. One thing I realized about INS Zoom is, I'm a solo that's a single person firm. I do everything. It would be more practical to have such intensely deep software that's super complex, because there's so many things going on. If you're a firm that does full service immigration and has multiple paralegals and attorneys, it helps things come on the same page. So I think the site is geared for that. So if I had like 5 people that were potentially working on a case, or even 2, it is a place to centralize all the information, and especially if you're doing all types of different kind of cases that require all different types of information. But when I just need it for a basic marriage case, I wish there was a simple software that was just to the point. But after the tutorials, it looked much better. The questionnaires I could redesign myself. So that looks like it's going to be good. If I could redesign the questionnaires and go into their knowledge-based system where I go into the brains of the program and I rearrange it the way I like. Unfortunately, that takes a lot of learning, but it is what it is. But what's made it difficult is I've had no time to go into the software. So Had it for almost 2 weeks now, and I've never been able to, other than the first day when I ordered it and before the tutorial classes, to go in and make it my own and to experience it. So I really want to get into it more. It's not, I just have to hold off full judgment with it. But after I talked about that, one immigration attorney who's actually creating her own software, it's called Case.One, contacted me, and she said she's going to be doing some software that touches upon these areas that I'm looking for. So hopefully that'll come out in a few weeks. I'll test it out and I'll give my honest opinion, I guess, how it is. But that should be interesting, have an immigration lawyer do it, because you could tell, I assume, even though I have immigration attorneys working for them, there's certain things that stand out where I think, like, an attorney that's on the ground would have things made differently, knowing what clients need and the mindset they have. But moving past that, it was a really interesting week for me, and I was very proud because I found 2 jobs for 2 different immigration attorneys, new students that are coming up or graduates at that point, and to connect them with some employers. So it's very satisfying. My mentee to immigration attorney programs I'm doing personally and with Ayla are coming to fruition, and seeing that. I talk about my frustrations in dealing with recent grads or students not living up to their own potential, but when good things do happen, it's very satisfying, and knowing that that person's, we're going to be in the same community for decades potentially, and we can always help each other out, and they know in me they have a person that has their back and only wants good. I don't look at it as competition with them. I just want to help people out. So having them know that and then reciprocating makes this such a great experience within the city, within the community, and the practice area. One thing I did this week, actually set up the first one, is my own mastermind group. Now, mastermind groups could be taken any way you want. Some people have fixed groups and they join some larger group, but I found a colleague of mine who's actually does personal injury catastrophic defense, or plaintiff's prosecution. I don't do civil. I'm a lawyer, I should have the terminology down better, but essentially he sues people when they hurt his clients really bad. Let's put it that way. So we got together and just brainstormed all the stuff I'm doing and he's doing, and it's a great thing if you could get like-minded people that are go-getters and you create this mastermind group and really keep it small, 1 or 2 people, so you can have really deep conversations that are open and honest, really speaking like about private stuff, finances, all this kind of stuff, where you're not afraid and you trust the person. It could be a very powerful experience, and from that I had several takeaways that were really powerful. Already within 24 hours, changed some parts of my game completely. So it was super powerful. The hard part is finding people that are there, dedicated, and have the same mindset. And that's what really took me a long time to be able to set this up. One thing I could share about the discussion is what he does is he read this, and it's right, I've done in the past, is waking up really early, like at 5 a.m. and working till 9 a.m. That 4-hour block from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. is equal to probably 8 hours if you work 9 to 5, if you put that time together. Not all hours are created equally. So if you're working at 6 to 7 a.m., you're not going to have any new emails or calls coming in to take your attention. You're not going to have people calling you and all this kind of stuff. It makes a perfect time to sit down and do the work. And it's such a pleasurable experience. I remember I used to do this a couple years ago when I woke up really early. Because I have to beat the traffic from the west side of Century City in Los Angeles, and I was like, I'll just wake up 5, go there and beat all that traffic. It's a short distance, but it'll take me like 45 minutes to do, even though it's only 2-3 miles. And the great thing is, by the time it's 9 o'clock, got all your work done, and people are just starting to roll into the office, and you're done, and you can spend the rest of the day at your leisure, at your own pace, and you can get a lot done that way. Now, the caveat is you can't go to sleep at 12 or 1. It's going to stress you out, unless you're one of those people who can sleep a few hours a day. But if you're going to be able to sleep at like 10 or get into bed at 10, eventually fall asleep at 10 through 11, and you get a solid 6 hours of sleep, you wake up 5, get some good breakfast, get some good work done. Again, by 9 or 10, you got pretty much all the stuff you need to do done, and you're refreshed, and then you could just casually get the day started. And it's really satisfying because then you look around, everyone's just trying to get their stuff done. So it's a really good feeling. My goal is hopefully to get that in tomorrow morning. So the problem is on Sunday nights I record this and I edit, and editing sometimes takes till 1 in the morning, and that sets the week on a bad leg. But I try to record this one a little sooner this time, but I'm going to do a video about the EB-5 and the Kushner family, Trump's son-in-law, and editing that one might take a little longer and make it hard for me to do this new plan. But the name of the game is preparing yourself and your firm for success. So if it's you need to wake up early, you need to do videos, you need to talk with people more, you need to network more, you need to find mentees, you need to find mentors, you need to use software, you need to deal with bad reviews, you need to do online marketing with regards to review sites and directory sites. If you got to do it, do it. Don't put it off. Every time you put one off, that's thousands of dollars in opportunity you're putting away. Because you're either scared or lazy or you just don't give value to it. But there is value to it. So if you're listening to this, you're probably on board already if you're taking the time to use technology to listen to a podcast. But it's there. The immigration field is vast. And, there's a lot of old-timers, to be honest, who have overhead that's crazy. So I have to take so many cases just to meet their overhead. Whereas if you're efficient at it, all that could be profit. And those firms are just wasting their money on overhead that's not necessary. And soaking up and clogging up the system and taking all these potential clients out there to pay overhead. But if you're nimble and you keep it small and fresh and efficient, that could be all profit. And so you just don't need as many clients to make things going and make a positive lifestyle for yourself. And the internet does help that. So I would really recommend doing that. It's the way to go. I wanted to thank a couple of people who contacted me this week that were really nice and were very positive. One is Bahar A., Lorenz W., and Jasmine S. All were really nice and are great listeners, and I'd love to hear more from you. If you have any ideas about stuff you like to talk about, stuff you enjoy, stuff you didn't enjoy, anything, I would love to hear it because I just want to make this podcast more pleasurable experience, more intellectual, and more knowledge and educational, and hopefully it just be something special for immigration lawyers to listen to. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I think it was a little shorter than usual, but I didn't want to overburden you because I'm sure you have a lot of other podcasts to listen to and a lot of work going on. I know firms are probably swamped nowadays. So if you had a question or comment, anything, please email me at info@jqqlaw.com. To see archives of the podcast, please go to immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. And I have a listserv. If you want to join that, just email me about it. It's the immigrationlawyerslistserv.com, or just email me info@jqqlaw.com. If you're an immigration lawyer, you could join that. Frankly, if you're any type of lawyer, you could join as well, but primarily immigration. I like to add different practice areas like criminal procedure, sanctions laws to the groups as well, so we have other opinions of different things that immigration lawyers might not know about. But that's it for today. Look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.